Yo, I don't know what's gotten into people lately, but I feel like there's not a whole lot of discussion on actual social justice issues. And now a lot of the banter in regards to anti-mask or anti-vaccine rhetoric is just really being misappropriated to some extent to silence other issues. I get that it's of concern to some people, but also too, right? Like, you there has to be an adult in the conversation, right? And there, there's often it's not discussed adequately, right? Like, you got people hanging nooses in imagery around Justin Trudeau as if he's some French traitor, and it's like, well, one, that's not healthy to political discourse, and such imagery only radicalizes, both sides. You guys do have to understand, right? Like, our politics has been infiltrated by almost close to 100 years now, right? Going as far back as 1921 to when there was a mass, um, you know, uh, a good number of Americans coming up from Indiana, and the whole goal was to create a counter government to usurp uh, the liberals at the time. This shit's not made up. This shit's actual historical fact. And then what you have is the KKK. Like, I think when I did my math based on the numbers, I'm trying to remember if what they had raised was close to 4 million. And yeah, this is 1921. They're raising 4 million in membership fees out of Saskatchewan. Do you think that just disappeared overnight? Do you think that just died? No, that literally is ingrained into our politics. So when you're trying to, make, you know, significant change as far as, in indigenous rights, like, yes, there's an issue with all parties, but you have to understand when once you get close to change, you're gonna have an issue, say, with the liberals not doing enough and also not following through on the word. But then you're also gonna have this pushback from conservatives where there is a lot of that colonizer's mindset ingrained in the party. Very much so. Very much so. They're trying to privatize healthcare right now. So your choices really are to choose, the lesser of two evils, or the one that smiles in your face and doesn't hide that they're evil. Privatizing healthcare. Do you really want healthcare privatized? You like, do you really want your healthcare privatized? Look at what happened with all the old age retirement homes. What do you think will happen with privatized healthcare? So, touting certain conservative elects as better alternatives, like, it's not going to lessen the tax burden on us. It's just going to simply cut more social safety nets or necessary social services. It doesn't inherently translate to better governance or flow of business in society. Like, they're talking about opening up certain tendering processes that are already accessible. So, um, you know, don't fall for some of the hype and some of the rhetoric. A lot of what you're seeing and reading is, in fact, to radicalize you. Like, these are very militarized spaces. I, and the other thing too, right? Like, I get where people were upset at mainstream media. Like, yo, bro, media has always been funded by government. We just live in a country where the government allows us an open comment section, and they're not leaving it open to target us like they do in other countries. If people are saying this is a democracy, there is no true democracy in the world that is not an open air prison to some extent. So I just kind of remind people, right? Like, you can have your disagreements, but you're not really furthering discussion, and you're only contributing to the propaganda by, you know, pushing out these memes, these gifs, these arguments that don't really enhance anything. Like, I think the one of the most startling things that I had seen recently were people ripping into Justin Trudeau, and they're cursing at him, they're cussing at him, and I'm like, you're gonna have the media on you, and this is what you guys say. You're the person jumping or like just leaning up on the barrier, screaming "F you," and the only thing you're doing is embarrassing yourself and the country, because guess what? There's actual issues that we need him to hear. You know, whether he's heard them before or whether or not he's ignoring them actively, that need to be championed. And instead of something ecological, instead of something pertaining to the mass graves of indigenous children found at residential schools, or the 25-year plus boil watery advisories on some of the reservations. You know, it's whether you're, you know, there's, you know, we could talk about pipelines. We could talk about jobs affected by the shutting down of Keystone XL. You know what I mean? Like, we could talk about, you know, banishing more pipeline projects. Like, whatever side you're for or against, do not be fooled by what we're seeing in terms of the discourse in, you know, surrounding the Canadian election. What did I tell people about a few months ago, right? I was discussing the number of Bitcoin mining operations that were intending to come to Canada. I was talking about the 1 million Bitcoin rigs going up in Alberta, okay? Now we have them trying to go out in Quebec. Why those two provinces in particular? Because it's harder to penetrate Ontario's political discourse. What you can do is you can work your way from the West Coast, not BC, but you can work from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and you can go from Quebec further out to the rest of the East Coast. And that's how you usurp a government. And you're like, what does that have to do with Bitcoin? Let me explain to you that when it comes to Bitcoin, all these mining operations, these farms own, pay for, and control many publications, syndicated like YouTuber, blog, and paper, bought, paid for with Bitcoin. Some of it's on the books, some of it's not on the books. Like, I was this close to selling my soul for $60K a year just to throw up videos and to publish and to write, because I wanted to be I wanted to feel special. I wanted the title of being an independent journalist. You don't get that by throwing somebody else's emblem and crest over your namesake, right? You work for that. And once I started seeing, like, why would I publish the Forbes when they publish about known crypto charity scams? What the fuck is my integrity? Why would I publish the Nasdaq knowing that they ask, you know, they talk about Shiba Inu, and it's like, it's not that they talk about Shiba Inu, it's that they play dumb. You know what I mean? Like, the first time I broke it down, I gave people what was available. It was probably one of my most watched videos, like 10,000 hits in a day, and then I stopped covering it because I'm like, I can tell you what it is based on what's available, and that these exchanges would only be listing it if there was some real personal connections to it. But then at the same time too, why the fuck are these exchanges listing charities? Anything affiliated with charities should not be listed. This is business. Do you see UNICEF? Do you see UNICEF on the TSX? On the LSE? It's not on the London Stock Exchange. You want to invest in UNICEF, you got to go out to the corner and put $1 in a box or send an email. Charity has no place in crypto, because guess what? Every charity can open up a fucking wallet and you can make your donation in that way, in whatever philanthropic denomination you feel necessary. But there is nothing necessary or needed about a charity token that's supposed to go up in value over time. You're not sharing or pooling grants. That's different. Between businesses, pooling grants and grants going up in value based on what's allocated to one grant or the overall grant pool, that's different. This though, this is like, it's fucked up. Like, how did an Amazon dog charity that we've never seen publicly make donations, we've never seen financials published? Let's talk about Jake Paul and Yummy Coins. Let's talk about that Cobra Kai guy and Micro Sheep. You know how many YouTubers I could fucking just make a list about and just fucking like kick them dick first into the dirt? Like, yo, a lot of these guys are messing with you. And I want y'all to just kind of mature with me in this space, because at some point it's got to get better. It's got to be a little bit healthier. And maturation of market is what we should strive for. I'm not against regulation. I welcome it, actually. Because, you know what I mean? Like, that's it, man. I'm going to smoke my weed. But, yeah, things got to change, man. Because right now, what we're seeing in Canada during our elections is literally the publication surrounding a lot of these Bitcoin mining farms and outside actors. Like, yo, our Toronto social media on IG, take this in. The majority of it is from people outside of Toronto, inflaming tensions in Toronto. Take that in. So when we even look at our political discourse, what you're gonna see are, and mind you, I've been following like neo-Nazi and homegrown violent extremism, white radicalism, radicalization of the white North American male, for example, roughly since 2006. So one thing you're gonna see right now in terms of the information to obfuscate, to make sure nobody gets heard, a lot of it is gonna be vitriol specific to the pandemic, the quarantine, anti-mask, anti-vaccine. Okay, so legitimate change isn't supposed to happen, because why? You're gonna have incumbent elects specifically funded through these Bitcoin mining operations. Whoever is going to be most favorable to Bitcoin, take this in. This is how fucked up it is. Remember, Canada has crypto oligarchs trying to seize power from corporatocracies that govern the different jurisdictions being provinces. It's all over the world like this. Like, I don't get caught up in a lot of the black and white shit. I'm like, yo, it's beautiful shit. Like, it's puppet mastery. They get you to dance over here, and suddenly it's a fucked up situation for everybody. But while y'all are fighting over what's going on here domestically, okay, let me just add some gasoline, some kerosene to the shit. And guess what we're gonna do? Now you guys are gonna fight about COVID, and we're going to really encourage people not to wear masks. And we're going to really encourage people not to go get a vaccine and dispute its efficacy. We're going to dispute doctors and say they're paid for. Like, sorry, like, what? Yes, we're going to disregard all medical evidence, because as long as you keep fighting the person all the way over here who profits off of the penalties for things stuck at ports, the penalties attributed to ships being stranded. Recently, we had 44 ships stranded, waiting to dock, and instead of being, moved to other harbors, they just waited in queue. Why? Because it'll take too long to get to another open port, and also, every day that they're not like docked and offloading is an additional charge and cost that they can pass off to the next party. Whatever they pass off to the party ends up getting passed off to the fucking consumer. Yeah, even the guy who doesn't give a fuck about everyone's infighting and literally being muppeted around like a marionette. I do not care about you. Yes, you, the bunk sock brigade. There's nothing left to fucking fight over. There's nothing. Mask on, mask off. Do it within reason. Just be courteous of people who are trying to not pay 40% above cost on shit coming through the fucking ports. Like, do you know how much state capture and loss is happening right now because motherfuckers don't want to wear a mask? Your politicians aren't going to have earnest conversations like this. 10 years from now, probably when I run for office, you'll be replaying this and like, yeah, fuck yeah, this guy was right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a hard fucking concept about how easily it is to be had by other nations. This is one of the ways they do it. You're not versed on psyops and militarized campaigns of this nature. You're just fucking not. A lot of people are oblivious to the world around them. And, you know, if I give you like free healthcare to a degree, and if I give you fresh drinking water, do you know how easy it is to get a monkey to fucking dance? That's all it is. You know, so now that you understand how much agency you actually have in connection with paradigms of, you know, social determinism, pre-social determinism, caste and class, like there's a transition we're seeing in society. And I really hope that some of y'all start to really rein in behaviors that you see and check it, because a lot of what's happening too is, whether you care about government or don't, when you talk about the dilution of institutions, remember, many of these institutions serve a purpose, and it is our job, if we disagree with them, to engage them, to enhance them to the betterment of our nation. Otherwise, you can degrade something, you can tear it down, but if you ain't building it, bitch, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you contributing to the fucking conversation? This is, like, a lot of the times I don't speak and have no desire to speak. But I just felt the fucking need to say something. When do these conversations and the discussions become healthy again? It's so fucking toxic. Like we can't be playing freedom fries all year round with things we dislike. Like, it's time to grow up. It's time to have adult conversations. I don't know what else to tell you guys. But it's like, I respect your choice not to choose, but at the same time too, it's, you know, for the sake of business and moving forward, I just can't have the same conversations where people are, this is slavery. Motherfucker, like, yo, you can't put SPF 40 on slavery. Slavery ain't never came with no serb, bitch. Communism never came with no serb. Communism never gave you, you know what I mean? Like, people are speaking very freely and acting like they're free of repercussions of the statement. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at a loss for words. I'm almost at times like disgusted to see what's the vitriol that's coming from other Canadians. You know, you're not really saying anything if you're not furthering discussion. What did you learn from this discussion? I don't speak fucking often, but understand that when I do speak, it's with purpose. I try to be a little more methodical in my presentation of self. And I just think that if we're gonna move forward as a unified Canada, there's certain things that need to be discussed. And I think, you know, I'm for dental, and I'm for reducing the cost for Canadians to go to dental school. That industry needs to no longer be monopolized. I am for reducing the cost for optometry. So if students want to go and get degrees in that, yeah, you know what? Okay, cool. You guys want to go private? Guess what? We're gonna flood the market with professionals, and God bless to your practice, because I already have business models designed for that industry. I was ready from like 2 months ago, so I'm not really here for play either. Like, I'll enterprise any which way. But people who don't know how to do business just simply want barriers torn down and more access to market. Not realizing like Luxottica, for example, they dictate most of the market. Wherever your eyeglasses come from, like they own LensCrafter, they own a few of the other competitors. Even the major competitors order from them. So when you think like, oh, who's influencing, you know, the degradation of standardized, you know, universal healthcare, is big corporations. and they're choosing an election year as the time to do it. So, you know, whether we pick and choose who we do and don't like, I'm just simply reminding you guys that there's actual conversations that need to be fucking had. And, you know, yelling profane and indignant things, you know what I mean, using improper messaging to communicate your disdain does nothing for people who are actually trying to make sure that their voices are heard. Do you know right now what our adoption strategy for crypto is? Not just virtual currencies, but digital assets of all kinds. Do you know where we are in North America in comparison to the Asia Pacific? And how much opportunity we're leaving on the table by allowing the EMA, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Africa to reclaim markets that while the whole world was sleeping, like Latin America, God bless them, but guess what though? A lot of opportunity if you invest and develop over there. But we can't have these fucking conversations arguing like children. Am I like, what did I go wrong in what I said? What did I disregard? Adult conversations can be civil, they can be healthy, they can be fruitful. They can be fruitful. So excuse me for a little bit of energy and cussing maybe when I shouldn't have. But it's really like, it breaks my heart to see what's become of Canada and how much we've strayed from actual purpose. You know, if the intent is to win an election at any cost, I think it's time we just choose a whole party or give someone like the NDP a chance. It's brutal right now. I want to hear Justin Trudeau speak. Whether or not I like what he has to say, whether or not I agree or disagree with his track record, I need to know what he's saying so I can make informed decisions for myself. Because guess what? The other parties are going to make their decisions and tailor their platform based on the things he says. But pulling up, blocking him, that shit's gotta stop. You know what I mean? Like, you're fucking up politics, period. Politics is already messed up. But do not ruin it for those of us who make the effort out of our lives to go and cast ballots regardless of the outcome. You might not be engaged, but I am not, you know, it's not lost upon me about how many Americans came up. Okay? Very familiar with some of these strategies. Some of them are plants. Some of them have been planted here for generations. For generations. You do with that information what you will. I just prefer not to see our political discourse move in that direction. I don't know what to tell y'all. But this has to change. That much has to change. Thank you. And God bless. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna smoke. Fuck it.